What are the prerequisites for becoming an Oracle DBA? It's a very silly question, but I don't know, I still get this question every single day. What's up DBAs, on this side again, back with another episode of Daily DBA Show, and I hope most of you are enjoying this show. I can literally get the sense and the feeling by the kind of emails and messages I'm getting. I think this is making a weird noise. We should set it up. 1 minute guys, give me a minute. Right, okay, this is fine. Alright, so I'm back. So today I've got again 6 questions as our show format is. And by the way guys, do you think I should reduce the number of questions in each episode? Because my goal is to keep it as short as possible but give you as much value as possible. So I feel like we have, in each of the past episodes you might have seen, I have always taken the 6 questions and 1 bonus question, but now I feel like I should take 5 questions just to reduce the time of each episode and then keep it short to the point, and that way each one of us save a lot of time. And by the way, that's what we all do, right? When we try to tune the queries, when we try to tune the databases, we try to reduce the time. So I think we should follow that tradition in everything that we do, right? That being said guys, I think most of you have already looked at our free courses, and if you haven't been onto any of our free courses, I would recommend you to go ahead, log on to dbagenesis.com and click on the tab called courses, and we have a lot of free courses for all the experienced DBAs and beginners DBA, and I want you to go ahead and log into those free courses. It's absolutely free. What are you waiting for? Go ahead and log in, buddy. Alright, that being said, we'll start today's show with the first question of the day, and as my teacher used to say, question. Okay, we'll start with the first question. Client is upgrading OS from OEL 6 to OEL 7. They want us to upgrade the DB from 11G to 12C. How should I proceed further? Now in this one guys, whenever you perform any upgrade, migrations, database cloning, the biggest thing is, or the biggest thing that DBAs ignore is the database size. Now let me help you this. How database size impacts the type of strategy that you choose for the database. Okay, before I talk about databases, let me give you another example. Let's take you have 1 bedroom apartment. So if you want to shift 1 bedroom apartment from one place to another place, you will have different strategy. But now if I tell you you have to shift probably 20 bedroom apartment, then your strategy will be different, right? So depending on the size of the database, these strategies will change depending on the entire, like again, the database size. Definitely you have to change the strategy. So let me talk about the different strategies that you should follow when it comes to database size is very small, when the database size is medium, when the database size is very big. So when I say small, it means somewhere between 500 GB or probably less than 500 GB. That's the size of the database. Then the next one would be a database which is around 1 TB to 5 TB. And then what strategy you have to follow when the database size is above 5 TB, right? So what you have to do, let's say if you have a very small database and you want to perform the migration along with the upgrade. So what you do is, you first get the access to the OEL 7 server, that's your new server, and you have the old server, that OEL 6, right? So from this server, what you do on the new server, you install the Oracle 12C and you perform an export and import because your database size is small, right? Very simple, very basic. Now what if your database size now touches terabytes? So let's say your database size is somewhere around 1 TB. So what you will do? In this scenario, what you do is you get the access to the OEL 7 server, and once you have the access to the server, what you do is you install the Oracle 12C database, and then on your source servers, that is OEL 6, what you do is you perform the database upgrade, right? From 11G you perform the upgrade to 12C, and now you have 12C on the source, you have 12C installed on the target. You can easily perform rman cloning, right? It's very simple. Now source and the target databases are of the same version. So what you did in this scenario is you have a target server which is on OEL 7, you have a source server which is on OEL 6. So we have migrated from OEL 6 to OEL 7, and on the source server you have upgraded the database from 11G to 12C, and on the target server you have already installed 12C. So you perform an rman cloning. So that way on the target server you have already performed the database upgrade, and you have also performed the migration from OEL 6 to OEL 7. Now the biggest challenge starts when your database size is above 5 terabytes. So how do you work in these kind of conditions? Understand this, for these kind of big databases, the problem will start. You cannot use rman cloning. It's not straightforward. Even if you use rman cloning, the rman cloning will run for probably around 2-3 days. So what's the workaround? So the workaround is very simple. So all the experienced DBAs, if you already know about snapshot based cloning, it is called as storage snapshot based cloning. So we use this method. I'll talk about this method in some time, but let me give you the ideal details before I talk about this snapshot cloning method. So what you generally do is, so you have the source server. On the source server you have OEL 6 and you have Oracle 11G database. So first what you do is you perform a database upgrade on the source server, right? So on the source server you have Oracle 12C database, all right? So once you have the 12C database, now you want to perform a cloning onto the OEL 7. That's your new server, completely new server. So on the new server you install Oracle 12C database. Now you will use storage level snapshots. So what you do is you take a snapshot at storage level of the source database and mount it onto the target database. This is the simplest way of cloning. I think it's completely beyond this video to explain what exactly is snapshot based cloning, but I think probably in my upcoming videos, or we can have a dedicated episode on what is snapshot based cloning. I can definitely talk or show you an activity by performing it on a live server, but for now let's keep it simple. So you kind of take an exact image on the source server, how the storage looks like, and you mount those drives or those snapshots onto the new server. And on the new server you just start the database and you have the database. Of course there is a little bit of recovery steps that are involved onto the target server, but as I always mention, as I just now mentioned, I think it's beyond the scope of this video. So let me keep it simple. If your database size is very small, like probably in GBs, then what you can do is you can simply go for an export and import. If your database size is in terabytes, then go for rman cloning. But if your database size exceeds 5 terabyte of size, then you have to take help of storage based snapshots. In this kind of scenario, you will definitely have to take help of your storage team. Now that being said, in case if you have any doubts on this upgrade plus migration query, definitely put it down into the comments and I would respond to you right away. By the way, I think I should, now that I'm answering this question, now I get that we should have a separate article or a video about snapshot based cloning on our YouTube channel or probably on our support website. I think why not? I think we should have a article, right? No worries, we'll put that article over there. No problem guys. So that being said, let's move on. The next question we have is how to fix the plan of an SQL inside the database. So guys, understand this. Why do you want to fix the plan, right? So whenever an SQL query executes inside the database, let us understand why or what makes an Oracle database change the plan. See, whenever you perform database upgrades, the database optimizer becomes more smarter in the new versions and the database optimizer is more enhanced. At this kind of point or in these kind of situations, sometimes, very rare, okay, the optimizer might generate a pretty poor plan that is completely different than your previous version of the plan. This is one scenario which I have seen after database upgrades. the query plans will change, and those plans are resulting in the poor execution of the query happens. Now, the other area when you might feel that a query or the optimizer is generating a poor plan is when you drop the indexes. Now, these kind of situations are the ones where it's 100% or it's really hard that you can induce the optimizer, or you can change the optimizer, or you can force the optimizer to use the old plan, because system has changed. Anytime there is a problem with the indexes, anytime there is a problem with the table definition, anytime there is a problem with the data types inside the table, it will definitely impact the query execution. Now, that being said, the simplest answer to this question, like how to fix the plan of an SQL in the database, you need to be sure like what plan do you want to use. All right, so when you have a plan in hand, and let's say you had a previous plan which was forcing an index to be used, and because of the index the execution was pretty fast, then what you can do is you can always use Oracle hints, and you can hint the SQL query that you have to run in this way, right? So those hints define how the SQL execution should happen. I think that's the simplest way, but guys, I am not a fan of Oracle hints. See, you need to be very careful why Oracle is picking up the wrong plan. If Oracle is picking up the wrong plan every time, that means there is some problem with the system. Did you check the table level stats? Did you check the index status? Is the index invalid? Do you need to rebuild the indexes? Is there an upgrade inside the system? Or if there was an upgrade, is the new optimizer generating wrong plans? So these are some of the recommendations, and I believe like if you feel like you have to change the plan of a query, be careful. Like probably there are some stale stats inside your database that you need to gather the table stats or the schema stats, and once you gather, the optimizer chooses the old plan. So how to fix the plan of an SQL inside the database? I think one line answer is by using hints. But that being said, I'm not a fan of Oracle hints because it's not a good thing to use in a production database. You need to drill down and figure out why Oracle is going for a wrong plan, because as a DBA you think that optimizer is always picking up the wrong plan. Now, that being said, let's move on to the next question. How to mine data using redo log files? This is very simple. You need to have a log miner database. So what is this log miner database? Now, before I talk about log miner database, let us understand or take an example. You have a source database for which you want to perform a log mining, right? So logs will be generated by the source database. All right, so these logs can be mined. That means you want to read the contents inside the redo log files that are being generated. That can only happen by setting up a log miner database. Now it's a completely separate database in which you offload the mining activities, right? Now this is very simple, but in most of the environments I have seen, you can also set up the source database as the mining database. But what is the problem if you do so? You are increasing the overhead onto that one particular database, that's the source database. It's always a good idea to offload the activities of the log mining onto a new database. So it's best that you install a new database, make it as a miner database that mines the redo logs of a source database, and that's how you can query the views inside this log miner database to get the contents of the redo log files. That being said, couple of important things I would like to mention is the log miner database version must be same or a higher version than the source database, because what happens is, it's very simple to understand. It has to be either same version or a higher version so that it can help. I think no explanation required over there. And I guess also one more thing, as far as I remember, because it's been pretty long that I've used a mining database, the log miner database will only support one source database. You cannot combine multiple source databases into one log miner database. It's not possible, and I think it's not a good idea to do that also, right? So it's always good that if you have one source database, have only one log mining database assigned to that database. And I believe, guys, as far as any environment is concerned, if you want to set up a log mining database, you will only set it up for one of your most critical databases, right? You won't set it up for every database inside your environment. So that being said, to answer this question, how to mine data using redo log files, it's very simple. You have to set up the mining database, and that database should also be an Oracle database. Yes, you can set up the same source database as the log miner database, but as I always say, you are increasing the overhead onto the source database. So it's always good to offload this activity onto a completely different database, right? That being said, sorry guys, I'm hurrying up because this meeting room is booked by someone else, so we have to wrap it up as fast as possible. Let's move on to the next question. I generally see Aura 19804 cannot reclaim XYZ bytes disk space from XYZ bytes limit. Error in all production database backups. What to do? I think this is a very simple answer and straight to the point. This is a problem with your FRA location. So go check your FRA location. I think when you're trying to take the backups from the rman is complaining that FRA location is not having enough space. So go ahead and check the alert log of your database and you will find that the FRA location is having issue. Now, if the FRA location is having issue, what you have to do is you have to, I think, increase the DB recovery file destination size parameter. And once you increase this parameter, I think your backups will start working. That being said, don't forget, before you increase this parameter, check the DB recovery file location where whatever your FRA location is, and see that at OS level, do you have the space, right? If you don't have space at OS level, there's no point in increasing the DB recovery file destination size parameter, right? So I think pretty straightforward. Check your FRA parameter. You need to see the FRA parameter sizes, and that will help you in this case. And whenever you have these kind of errors, I always request you to check the database alert log, because alert log has good information, and if it is throwing you errors for the FRA location, go ahead and increase the recovery file disk size, right? Alright guys, we are back. Sorry, as I was saying, like that meeting room, someone was waiting for it. I think we should give we should respect the time for other teams also. So I guess I took that meeting room knowing that someone else has booked the meeting room. That's okay. Let's move on with the next question. What is the use of snapshot control file? How rman uses snapshot control file with recovery catalog and without recovery catalog? So guys, if you look at the exact meaning of snapshot, what is the meaning of snapshot? It's like you are capturing the current state of a file. So when you take an rman control file snapshot or snapshot control file backup, what happens is it actually backs up the control file as it is at a location or an OS level location. So whatever your current state of control file is, rman will just create a copy of that control file and keep it into an location at the OS level, right? That is the basic and literal meaning of snapshot control file. Now, the beauty about snapshot control file is it does not contain any details about the recovery catalog or other stuff. It is exactly at that point of time, the copy of control file is kept at an OS level location. Now, when you take snapshot control file backup, the biggest problem is it does not contain the information of that current backup that you have taken, right? But it will contain the information of the previous backups, okay? So what is the benefit of snapshot control file? I think the biggest benefit is, let's take you have lost everything, and like when I say everything, you have lost your entire database, SP file, control file, your data files, and you do not have connection to your recovery catalog. That's the point. These snapshot files will come into picture. That being said, I'm not a fan of snapshot control files because there is a parameter inside rman. If you enable control file auto backup on, which is by default on in 12c onward databases, then you don't even need to bother about the control file snapshots, because every time you trigger the database backup, automatically it will take the backup of the database control file and the SP file. So why would you need to take the backup of the snapshot control file? That being said, I can 100% confirm that this question is coming from a DBA where probably in your environment some grandfather DBA set up the database backups with some snapshot control file kind of parameter and you are just confused. By the way, you can happily remove this parameter, and if you enable the control file auto backup on in your environment, that's more than enough. This is actually, I really don't know. I have personally not used this kind of parameter ever. It's not at all required. Whether it is database cloning, whether it is taking normal database backups, whether it is creating the standby database, you would never require the snapshot control file. So if you are taking it just for the sake of taking, I think you should have a main reason or a very strong reason as to why you are taking the backups of the snapshot control file. All right, that being said, let's move on to the last question of the day. Can you please explain about types of protection modes in dataguard and their purpose? See, dataguard has 3 protection modes. One is maximum protection, that's the name. One is max availability, and the last one is max performance. So guys, the max protection mode is the zero data loss protection mode, where it guarantees that there will not be any data loss between primary and standby. So how does it happen? So on the primary, when somebody commits the transaction or whenever there is a redo log that is sent from primary to standby, once standby confirms that the redo log has been received onto the standby will send an acknowledgement to the primary, and that's when the transactions on the primary gets committed. So that means your primary will wait until standby gives a signal that okay, I have received the transactions, right? So that way it is guaranteeing the maximum protection. So even if there is primary or standby goes down, still your data loss will be 100% zero. I mean, okay, I don't know that's the correct statement. It will be zero, right? There won't be any data loss because the user will not be given an option like commit successful until the standby sends a signal that's saying that okay, I have received the redo log transactions. Now that being said, the biggest problem with max protection mode is, what if there is a network issue? So if primary and standby databases are there, primary is sending the redo entries to the standby. Now from standby, while it is acknowledging back to the primary saying like, oh, okay, I have received the redo log files, if there is any network issue, the primary will go down. This is the biggest challenge. Now in real time, if you use this kind of protection mode, the biggest problem is, let's take if there is a slight network issue, if the standby is not able to connect to the primary will go down. This is the biggest problem, and no one uses this one in real time. At least I haven't seen it till date, right? Now that being said, the next protection mode is maximum availability. Now as the name suggests, it is highly available system. So in max protection, the data loss is more important to us. We want zero data loss. But in max availability, we want availability of the system for the end user, but we are ready to compromise on slightest data loss, right? Eventually there is no data loss, but comparatively with the max protection mode, in the max protection mode, we are compromising on the availability of the primary, right? You remember, as I mentioned, if there is no network between primary and standby, the primary will go down. So we are compromising on availability of the database, but we are not compromising on the data. But when it comes to max availability, we want availability as the priority. So what happens, it's exactly same as max protection mode, but if there is any network issue, the primary will not go down. As simple as that. So max protection is if there is any network issue between primary and standby, the primary will go down. Max availability, exactly same as max protection, but if there is any network issue, primary will not go down, it will continue to work. The last protection method inside the dataguard environment is max performance, and this is the default protection mode. It is a simple database that you are connected to primary. Primary will continue to send the redo logs to standby. Now primary will never wait for standby to acknowledge whether it has received the redo logs or not. So it will continue to perform the transactions. You hit a commit, commit will be done. It will not wait for standby to say, hey, I have got the redo logs, now go ahead and commit the transaction. This will never happen. It's the default mode, and I believe if you are interested in changing the database protection modes, if your dataguard is working in max availability mode or max performance mode, that is the default mode, I would suggest you can go till max availability mode, but don't go for max protection. It will be a challenge for you, right? That being said, guys, I think I had these 6 questions for the day, and I still encourage you to send me your questions to support@dbagenesis.com. I'm trying my best to shoot as many episodes as possible. I know we have missed a couple of episodes in the past, but that's okay, it happens. Like, we are having some holidays running in India, and this is 2020, so you should expect some new content, and I'm experiencing some new holidays over here. Now, that being said, once again, support@dbagenesis.com, send me all your queries, and I will see you. Hold on, where are you guys going? We are missing the bonus question, right? So let's move on to the most exciting part, that is the bonus question. Alright guys, I'm back, and this one question I have chosen for the bonus question because I think this is something will relate to all the fresher DBAs who want to start their career as an Oracle DBA. So let me read out this question for all of you. The question goes something like this: what are the prerequisites for becoming an Oracle DBA? It's a very silly question, but I don't know, I still get this question every single day. See, the prerequisites for Oracle DBA are very simple. First of all, you need to understand what operating system the real-time world uses. So the real-time world always uses the Linux operating system. I think the 98% of the servers in the world that host the Oracle database, they use Linux operating system. So the first prerequisite that you should know before becoming an Oracle DBA is to learn Linux. Now, once you're done with Linux, the next prerequisite that comes in is the SQL. Now, why SQL? See, you are working for a database which understands a language called as SQL, and then if you are saying that you don't want to learn SQL, then how would you talk to the Oracle database, right? So either you have to, if you want to become a DBA, you have to learn Oracle SQL. So one more important thing that comes to my mind when it comes to fresher DBA is they think that if they read a book, they can easily become a DBA. It's not that simple, because see, you need to go through a formal training where you are exposed to the right kind of activities that Oracle DBAs do in real time, because Oracle DBAs deal with a lot of stuff. One is installations, one is user management, table space management, rman, backup, recovery, database cloning, database upgrades, database maintenance, security, performance tuning. A lot of stuff goes in. Now, if you believe that you tend to prepare for one of the Oracle database certifications, you will become a DBA. No, it does not work like that, because certification based learning will make you prepare for the certification, but it won't prepare you for the real world. So when you work on a real server, you need to have real activity experience. You need to know what you work on, you need to know how to solve the problem. Now, that something can come only with a formal education or a formal training. So for all the fresher DBAs, I think this question would have definitely been asked by a fresher DBA. It's very simple. The first prerequisite is you need to know the Linux administration. You need to know how to administer the Linux operating system. The next one is SQL, the Oracle SQL. You need to know how to communicate to the Oracle database using the SQL language. That being said, the final one is, it's not about certification based learning. It's about a formal training in the Oracle DBA course or Oracle DBA zone from a trained expert who can help you understand what are the activities that happen in real time. That being said, guys, keep tuning in, keep sending me your questions to support@dbagenesis.com, and I will see all of you in the next episode.